When language breaks, we feel it first as a silence, not the peaceful kind, but the stunned quiet that comes after something has shattered, a stillness full of fragments that no sentence can quite gather. So when I was translating Zhang Ling's A Single Swallow, I kept returning to one question. How do you translate what cannot be said? The novel's heart is a woman named Ai Yen, a young villager who's been brutalized by Japanese soldiers and her mother killed in a horrific way by them as well. After that, she rarely speaks. She exists mostly through the words of three men who remember her after their death. For Western readers, that silence can feel like erasure. A protagonist who never speaks, whose pain is described only by others. It seems to contradict everything we're taught about agency and voice. But in Chinese tradition, there's another vocabulary of strength, the moral gravity of endurance, the dignity of restraint. To be silent is not to vanish. It can be to hold meaning so tightly that it no longer needs articulation. As a translator, I stood at that fracture line. If I forced Ai Yen to speak in English by over-explaining or by inserting some inner monologue, I would betray the novel's ethical core. But if I left too much unsaid, I risked readers mistaking endurance for emptiness. So each sentence became a negotiation. How much silence can the language bear before it stops breathing? Translating trauma is never only about the words. Every language has its own threshold for pain. Chinese tends to move sideways through image and gesture and implication. English wants to name things head on. When those instincts collide, the translator becomes a bridge between eloquence and endurance. So my job was not to fill the silence, but to make space for it, to let readers hear what Ai Yen cannot say. Sometimes that meant choosing rhythm over detail. A broken syntax, a pause at the end of a line, or a sentence that trails off where another language would conclude it. These became the porcelain seams that hold the story together, each fracture visible yet rejoined. There's a Japanese art form called kintsugi, where cracked bowls are mended with gold. The repair doesn't hide the damage, it illuminates it. Translation can be a lot like that. When language breaks, our task is not to pretend that the bowl was never broken, but to reveal the beauty of the mending. Ai Yen's silence is the gold seam of the story. Through it, we glimpse the untranslatable weight of survival, a courage that doesn't need a voice to be heard. As translators, we often live in that silence. We carry other people's pain without dramatizing it. We speak for those who can't, and yet we try not to steal their words. We walk the fine line between omission and erasure, between honoring quiet and imposing speech. Maybe that's why translation itself feels sacred to me. It's the art of listening after the words have ended, of hearing the pulse inside the pause. So in the next episode, we'll stay with Ai Yen's quiet presence, and we'll ask what it means for a story's center to be a voice that never speaks.